Okay.
All right.
We're getting there. It's thinking about it. Okay. We're on YouTube.
Okay.
Very excited. This could be a lot shorter if we were just on TikTok.
It's true. It's true. Maybe that'll be the next thing. It's like whatever you got to say it. And I don't know, how long do you have on TikTok? I don't even know.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to DOOR3 TV, everybody, our thousands of loyal subscribers. I am here today with Alex Asianov, president and founder of DOOR3, and Sarah Templin, who is a product designer and material designer, and also faculty at Parsons in New York and Micah here in Baltimore, where I am right now. Not at Micah, I'm actually at Johns Hopkins. I'm Liz Flyntz. I'm the director of UX and design at DOOR3. And Sarah is our second ever external guest. Very exciting. And we're going to talk about how product design is similar and different from digital design or designing for software, which is what we do at DOOR3. Specifically, sort of how we think about usability in product design versus digital design. We had this previous chat about this, and we were talking about, how product designers who create furniture think about usability. And I think you're a special case, Sarah, because the kind of design that you do is called designing for disassembly. That's a sustainable form of furniture design that's intended to make furniture that can be completely deconstructed so that all of the parts can be reused or recycled. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got that right. So it's designing so that everything can be taken apart for sustainability, but also to prioritize repair. And it is maybe a special case seemingly, but it's more and more common in, we have started seeing a lot of laws in the EU mandating that electronics are all designed for disassembly. It's called the right to repair law. And it's starting to kind of get some footing here in the States too. So we will definitely be seeing it more and more frequently, mostly in electronics, like home electronics, like your refrigerator, but also digital stuff. But yes, I focus on it on a wide range of products, but I have been doing a lot related to furniture and soft goods in that world.
Yeah, we were talking about how, I guess there's two different pieces of testing that we do too. So we do usability testing and user research that is basically like, how would people use this potential product that we haven't produced yet? What is the user? Let's build a profile of them that we call a persona and think about what they're trying to achieve and how you build that storyline from start to finish and achieving their goal. And then we would maybe test our assumptions with actual users. We try to find somebody that had that kind of profile or a group of people and to make a prototype. We think this will work. Does it? Let's check. And then finally, there's like robustness testing, which is what you were talking about, or durability testing that we do via QA, which is like, there's all these techniques that we use, everything from, we might do like, load testing, which is like if 100,000 people try to use this piece of software at the same time, is it going to crash the servers and destroy everything?
Yeah.
Alex probably can talk a lot more about how durability testing works in the digital world, but tell us about how you test for usability and durability in the furniture design world.
We're doing a lot of the same things in the world of product design of physical objects, making these, sort of compiling like a user profile, or a few different ones in all the same ways that you are. Maybe not so much with furniture design, at least for domestic design, but for something like Herman Miller or Knoll or people who are doing, office furniture, they're probably working on that a little bit more because their furniture is really user specific. So like, is this person sitting at a desk for a bajillion hours a day, day in, day out, or are they kind of moving around? So
that's because it's designed for work. Is that why that?
Yeah, designed for work. And so ergonomics really comes into play really significantly. But we're doing a lot of the same things, having this, hypothetical user, that we always encourage our students to really base it on an actual person and not just like somebody that you kind of fabricated. And then we'll actually do testing with people as well. And this could be for furniture, this could be for silverware, or, anything related to product design. And then depending on what you're designing, you'd also have all these really specific additional tests that we were just talking about. So, if you are designing a piece of furniture, you might even make the object out of clay, kind of make these prototypes out of clay, the way you think about the car industry using clay.
Yeah. And
get a wide variety of people to sit on it and see where it touches them in uncomfortable places or where they don't feel supported. And then you can really easily change the clay model, like right there. It's not hard. Once you then get it the way you like it, you can create a 3D scan and start putting it into a physical object. But more with any kind of furniture that you would sit on in particular, there are all these different tests that we would do to check the durability. So you would sit on, we were talking about the IKEA display where you have that chair.
Yeah. I don't think they have this in every IKEA, because apparently Alex has never seen this, but some IKEAs have this cool display where there's like a glass case and they have one of those, I don't remember what that chair is called, but the like super common IKEA armchair that's like a wooden frame. Yeah. And that's sitting there, and there's like a thing just like a robot just replicating someone.
Yeah.
Sitting down
in
it.
That one sort of hitting it in compression, but an actual testing facility would hit it at all these other angles too, like 10,000 times, 20,000 times, 30,000 times until it gives or cracks or joinery breaks or the fabric wears or something. And those numbers of like 30,000 hits or 30,000 rubs or something is what we would then use to assess if it's ready to go to market or not. So, but the people, we are concerned about this as product designers, but we're also really having to think about all of these things in this kind of other way where it's really not just based on metrics. We're thinking about all these other sort of non-quantifiable elements too, like how do people perceive this thing? What are the semantic cues? There's a lot of other stuff that we're having to, that a good designer would be really able to kind of contextualize and understand the nuances of how that relates to like human psychology and whatnot.
Right, which is more like what we do in, the things like the QA testing and like durability load testing is not part of what we do. That's more in the engineering side. What we do is much more about the sort of, usability, legibility, and aesthetic considerations.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants ugly furniture, and also nobody wants to have an ugly interface. And you also don't want to have furniture that's kind of like unrecognizable as furniture, although yeah, it could be cool. I don't know. Beanbag chairs, they probably weren't recognizable as furniture originally.
But the ugliness of something also gets to like, well, is it usable if no one wants to use it? And is it sustainable if no one wants to use it? Like, did you just create this thing that nobody wants to use and now it's out there for no good reason?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's an often overlooked part of function, that it also needs to look a certain way.
Yeah, and this actually is a major consideration in software that is often overlooked, especially by folks who were brought up in the technology IT world of like 1990s, 1980s. There's a, if the software isn't used, it's not, it isn't a good investment, right? And that could be because it's technically bad, right? That could be one reason, and that's what IT folks are very good at thinking about that, right? But it could be because no one wants to use it, right? And if no one wants to use it, they won't. They'll find ways around it. Not only will the investment in the software be a bad investment, but the workarounds will create other silos of data, other processes that are invisible at central management, and all sorts of things will occur that are counterproductive, that are very difficult to excavate, identify, and remediate, right? So it is its own version of building non-sustainable software. Imagine investing $1 million or $2 million in operational software and finding out that people are doing so many workarounds that the money you've invested is kind of a waste, and they're now creating junk in other parts of the company as a byproduct of their workarounds, right? So it's a really key thing. Now in software, we don't have a robot that sits on our software regularly, right? We do have equivalent things a little bit, right? But I do want to highlight a key difference, right? So when you think of a chair, right? It has a finite, a fairly defined set of use cases, right? Someone sits on it, someone gets up from it, someone sits on it for 2 hours or 8 hours, right? And so a robot can replicate some of the variables, and even there, I trust the engineers at IKEA, but a chair that is sitting on a hardwood floor is going to transmit stresses to your corduroy pants very differently from a chair that is completely immobilized by sitting on high pile carpet, right? And even that tiny variable is sufficient to require a different set of tests. In software, we have fewer variables. Our software doesn't run on carpets versus hardwood floors, but it has more different things that it does for people, right? Almost any software will do more individual different use cases than the chair, right? And so what happens is that the combinatorics, a number of different ways that those functions can intercombine to create either a positive or a negative experience for users is immense. There's a lot of onus on both the user experience designers and technologists to make sure that the software works and works for humans, right, in all of those different combinations. And there is some automation that's available for that. Like instead of that robot, we can do load testing to make sure that we can pile on a bunch of hits on software and make sure that it stands up to that and technically is robust to deal with that. There's functional testing where you can program in a series of user-like activities that the software does and see if those interactions make the software misbehave. And those are all valid, important processes. But there's a lot that goes into the software side of things in the planning stages to just make sure that the software is as good for users as possible. We have to understand all the different use cases. We have to excavate their complexity, highlight their complexity, understand what that means in terms of the functionality and in terms of the user experience, mock it up, possibly user test it on paper or in a prototype form with users. And still, some chairs will wear out your corduroy pants faster than others, despite all the testing, and some software is going to be out the gate a little bit suboptimal. And so people really need to look at software, just like you're building sustainable furniture and sustainable physical products. They have to look at software not as a project. We had the software project and we built this piece of software and we deployed it, boom, done. No, it's not like that. It is a product that's going to have a life cycle, and potentially you might reupholster that chair or have a new generation of that chair from the factory with fabrics that better support longer wear after you learn that in real world environments, it doesn't wear as well. Perhaps it's purchased primarily in high humidity southern states of the United States, and it's different from where the factory tested it, right? Is that right? So you learn from your product human interaction, right? And you improve your product. So if folks looked at software more as a product and less as a project, I think that it would be a more realistic way of looking at the software and a way of projecting the possible work that needs to go into that software to make that a good investment, right? Because it does mean coming back to that software, making it better, coming back to that software again, making it better, all from lessons learned as the software continues to evolve, right? And to do that efficiently and effectively, it has to have been built from the ground up, just like the furniture you're designing, to be serviceable, right? So the thought that this is going to be a living, breathing thing that needs to be fed, serviced, cared for, right, needs to go into the calculation of what effort are we putting into creating that software to begin with. If we don't put in the effort to make it maintainable and serviceable and extensible, it just won't be, right? So I think there are a lot of parallels here.
Yeah, and I think there's a parallel too with like thinking about what is the priority for the product, because in some cases the priority is making it look as beautiful or weird or interesting as possible. I'm thinking like, all of this, I had this brief obsession recently with Memphis furniture design, and it's all extremely uncomfortable in my opinion, but it looks really cool. And then there's, designing for making it as cheap as possible, which I think probably was IKEA's MO for a long time. Like, how can we make a couch that's $400 when most of the couches on the market are $2,000? And then there's this, there's another track that is what you're thinking about that takes those things into consideration as well, but also thinks about what Alex is talking about, which is how can this have a lifespan of serviceability and functionality?
So here's the thing: in the software world, there's always this. There's always a clash. This is pure economics. There's always unlimited want, limited capacity, limited money, right? So we can want all of these things. We want a lot of features. We want sustainability. We want maintainability. We want serviceability, and we want to do it for as little money as possible, right? Like, or some finite budget, right? So something has to give, and good technologists can help with that, right? So when you design the software to be reused or modules to be reusable, you increase the maintainability of the software long term, and you decrease the cost of the first version you build to begin with, right? So Sarah, I don't know if you agree with this analogy or not, but if you have a couch where each leg is a different design, right? Like each leg is its own weird shape, right? You're going to have a higher cost of manufacturing because now you have 4 different types of things you have to manufacture instead of one kind of leg that sits at the 4 corners of the couch, right? And then when it's time to service that couch, you have to figure out, well, which leg is it and which kind of shape is it? And now I need to order that special leg from the factory, and that factory only makes 1/4 of the volume, so that thing is going to be more expensive to install, and someone has to think about that, and so it's going to take an extra couple of minutes to install it, right? Otherwise, they're right. So the same thing with software. If you design for reusability, you're also designing for economy of initial development and for sustainability and serviceability. And I think that's part of what we can do to meet this challenge of, like, we want a lot of features. We want a cost-effective maintenance life cycle. How do we do it all, right? And user experience designers as well, like by designing things in an aesthetically pleasing but modular fashion, they can help with that as well.
Yeah. This is like what we're doing with design systems. Exactly. But yeah, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Well, yes, I agree. And one thing I would say is that I think at one point people were thinking about these 3 different tracks that you mentioned, Liz, but there's, we're starting to see that they don't have to be siloed. Even IKEA is now one of the leaders in the entire world of thinking about sustainability in product design, and has just conducted a humongous audit of every single one of their products to determine which is already designed for disassembly and what things they need to eliminate or redesign to make them designed for disassembly, so that they can buy back all of their products and reclaim them as, for recycling or for biological nutrients, or for repair. So, people are understanding that there's a real cost to these things being separated, and there's a lot of ways that maybe require some creativity, but there are many, many ways that you can make sure that something looks good, is a high quality product, is affordable, and is sustainable, or at least 3 of the 4 of those elements. Whether or not you think IKEA stuff is good looking is like totally open to interpretation, but it can certainly be sustainable and affordable. They're working, to your point, Alex, they're working at such huge volumes that if they wanted to make all 4 of those legs separate, they could easily. And when you are working on a smaller volume, as most every other company in the world is, it's a different situation. But that doesn't mean there aren't lots of ways that you can kind of figure this out. I write for Core 77, which is an online product design magazine, and there's plenty of examples on there, written by me, written by other people, of companies that are doing this, like BMW, IKEA, all the way down to much smaller companies. And even looking at, for us in the world of physical objects, looking at the traditional way of doing things is a really great way to kind of look for ideas that you can bring into the new century. Just update it for the constraints of contemporary manufacturing. I don't know that that really applies to your digital world, but maybe somehow it does.
Tell us what you're working on now, Sarah.
Well, actually, I'm about to start a research fellowship doing just that, looking at historical manufacturing methods at Winter Tour in Delaware, and examining how those traditional manufacturing methods, which are inherently
for furniture, right? It's
for furniture, for soft goods, for a wide variety of products, actually. But those traditional methods were inherently sustainable because they were always developed with repair in mind. Things always used to be designed to be repaired. So looking at how objects used to be made is a good indication of how we could kind of update them for mass production in a way that would be a better path forward.
Can I ask you, I guess this will be our last question, but I want to talk about, so the way we know each other is because we work together at the American Visionary Art Museum, which is a museum of what's called visionary art, but it's mostly unschooled artists, so artists who did not go to art school, for instance. And Sarah was the registrar there, and I was her assistant for a while, and then I also worked on installations. And I'm just curious if you think there's a relationship between what you do now and the kind of design work that you do now and the work that you were doing there, because I think there's definitely a relationship between the work that I do now as a designer and the work that I did thinking about and organizing exhibitions.
Absolutely, in the sense that it all gets down to communicating a message. You're trying to convey an idea. With museums, you're trying to convey an idea, show examples of it, get people probably to walk through a certain built environment in a particular order, incite a certain experience or revelation from the viewer. And that's what I'm doing trying to do with products as well, and teaching product design, trying to get my students to understand how to do that. So I see that connection there. I'm guessing you probably do too.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everybody. This has been another episode of D3TV. I have no idea what number episode this is. I think it's 23. I was trying to keep track and I've completely
Does
lost the thread.
23 make a season, or you know, because our production values, other than my background, they're not that high, so we can do old-fashioned television, right? With 23 episodes per season.
Yeah, I mean, they're short episodes, hopefully.
Might the season finale?
Yeah, maybe this is the season finale.
It's a cliffhanger. Awesome. What comes next?
Yeah. But it's been great talking to you. And do you have any things that you're working on that you want people to check out, or fill any shillables?
Thank you for having me, for starters. It's great to meet you, Alex. It's good to see you again, Liz. And I definitely encourage anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about the product design approach to some of these things to users. I mean, Don Norman is a great person. He's like kind of considered the father.
Our guru too. Yeah, Nielsen Norman Group is our like
go-to as well.
Go-to, yeah.
Yeah. So there's the common thread between physical product design and digital product design. But then also, if you wanted to learn more about product design for disassembly, either as a consumer, if you want to be a responsible consumer, or as a product designer, I would urge you to go to either Course 77 to look up some of these things. Just do a search for design for disassembly, or you can go to my website where you'll see some links to some of those articles as well.
What's your website?
SarahTemplin.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're DOOR3, and we are available to answer your software related questions and open to new projects. And if you want to reach us, projects@DOOR3.com.
We'll be happy to talk to you about furniture too.
Well, yeah, I have opinions. I have thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts, opinions.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Very nice to meet you. Take care.
Meet you too.
Bye.